Over the weekend, I had the honor to be a guest on Katie Fang's show. It is sadly, I'm sorry to say, the second to last episode of Katie's show, which has been a staple for me over the last couple of years. Katie Fang is one of those journalists who not just understands what this country is and has been facing, but she has always, without hesitation, been willing to speak truth to power. So, again, it was an honor for me to be on her second to last show. It's always been an honor for me to be a guest on her show, and it's an honor for me to call her my friend. She specifically had me on Saturday to talk about what she refers to as the first 100 days of disaster, and that would obviously be the first 100 days of the Trump regime. And to remind people that there were plenty of us out here who knew what was coming and were very clear in our warnings about what was coming. I said the following months ago. I don't typically like to quote myself, but I think it's instructive. And again, I'm not the only person who was sounding the alarm, but here's what I had to say a few months ago. Quote, if we are unfortunate enough to put Donald back in the White House in 2024, it would be an unthinkable tragedy. This man has one policy position, and it's to keep himself out of prison. He's incapable of changing, and if we let him anywhere near the levers of power again, that would be one of the worst mistakes this country could ever make. And I believe at that point, the American experiment would be over, unquote. It brings me absolutely no pleasure to say that I was, that quote is something that I could have said in 2020 and in fact probably did. So it was a fascinating conversation with somebody whose opinion and acumen I truly value, and I hope you all enjoyed as well.
So what a difference 90 days make as convicted felon Donald Trump nears the end of his first 100 disastrous days in office. It's been a choose your own adventure of terribles, from seeking retribution against his political enemies, ignoring the rule of law, the cruelty being the point, to his beautiful tariffs bringing us closer to a recession if we aren't there already. If only there had been some kind of warning of what was to come, perhaps from someone who would know, like a family member. Joining me now is that very smart woman, Mary Trump, the host of the Mary Trump Show podcast, the author of Who Could Ever Love You, a family memoir, and someone that I am proud to call a friend. Mary, you've warned us repeatedly in your books, your interviews, on TV, on radio, anywhere you could. You've warned Americans repeatedly about who your uncle is. As we near the end of his first 100 days of disaster, as I'm calling it, are things turning out just as you anticipated or even worse?
First of all, Katie, it is so wonderful to be with you, and I'm proud to call you my friend and honored to be on your show. I don't like saying I told you so, and I'm certainly am not the only person who has been sounding the alarm, but those of us like you who have been paying attention since the beginning should not. I think we have no right to be surprised. And this is all unfolding as we were told it would. And I think the only thing that is shocking, even for those of us who were paying attention, is the comprehensiveness and rapidity with which the United States government and American democracy are being dismantled.
So, Mary, though, throughout it all, you've stayed in the fight. And listen, if there was anybody who could have said, you know what, peace out, I'm going to go kind of, be over here, you let me know. You haven't done that. You've stayed in the fight. You continue to encourage those to do so as well, others to come into the fold and continue to be a part of that fight. What advice do you have right now as we near the end of these 100 days, these first 100 days? People feel kind of hopeless, and all they see are just negative headlines.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of negativity, certainly. I completely understand why people would feel demoralized or hopeless or exhausted or tapped out. But I think it's important to remember that that's exactly what Donald and the Trump regime want. Their onslaught is purposeful. And one of the goals of it is to render those of us who are still in the fight kind of inoperative in some ways. We cannot allow that to happen, obviously. And also, I think we need to remember that this is a long fight. Obviously, what has been happening is horrific and for many people unimaginable. It's going to take a while to adjust to what it is a new reality. We live in a very different America from the one Donald Trump inherited on January 20th, 2025. But just as their plans to carry out the worst that they can manage against us and our country took a very long time, we have time to organize. Now, we can argue that this should have happened already, of course, but there's always hope. One, there's always hope because there are more of us than there are of them. And our cause is the righteous one. And secondly, we see the Trump regime, one, it's run by a bunch of incompetent people who do not understand the fire with which they're playing. And they are overplaying their hand. And Americans who don't typically pay attention are starting, I think, to wake up and recognize the new landscape we're living in. And most of them don't like it at all.
You know, Mary, I like to say often that we are capable of walking and chewing gum, meaning we do not have to be focusing on only one issue. We can focus on many. And the one that obviously strikes me, you know, in my core is always the attacks on the rule of law. I am trained as a lawyer. It's something that I believe is being kind of the last bastion of a line of defense when it comes to democracy. And yet it's so on brand for Trump to do that, right? There's a reason why I call him convicted felon Donald Trump. He's a convicted felon. And so when you see these relentless attacks, when you see what's happening with Kilmer Abrego Garcia and the stuff that comes out like on the official White House accounts on social media, your thoughts about whether or not we truly find ourselves in the midst of a constitutional crisis?
Well, Katie, I'm a layperson. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but personally, I think we've been in a constitutional crisis since in November 2024, 74 million people decided to hand over the keys of power to a man who is an insurrectionist and a traitor to this country. That, for me, was the original constitutional crisis. Essentially, what happened is that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was rendered completely inoperative. So now I think we have a new constitutional crisis, and in many ways, it is an infinitely more dangerous one because, as you and Joyce and others have said, we are looking at a situation in the United States of America in which nobody, including American citizens who were born here, no longer have habeas rights, no longer have a right to due process. And we are looking at a situation which will lead, of course, to the fact that there is no rule of law in America anymore. And I think we can thank the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court for deciding that Donald Trump deserved an imperial presidency.
Mary Trump, it's good to see you. I'm grateful always that you take the time and you spend the time to educate us and to make us better and smarter for it. And thanks for being such a good friend. I appreciate it.
Katie, thank you for everything you do and for your brilliance. I so appreciate you.
Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.